the percentage of students one or more grade levels behind in literacy, whose parents, guardians are centrally documented as having been notified of their child's literacy level at least once every 12 weeks, will increase 100 percentage points from 0% in spring 2020 to 100% in spring 2024. It was 0 because this was a brand new process for us, put forth through the constraint process. So as we can see here, we look at our 2020-2021 data on the far left-hand side. This year, reporting out 2021-22, we ended the year at 99%, and you can see each of the 4 12-week time periods, so beginning of year, middle of year, end of year, and then our total was at 99%. Our target this year was 90% as we scale up to that 100%. So we went from 85% last year, or in 2020-2021, to 90%, or 99%, excuse me, in 21-22. Just shy of that 100% target for 2 years out. As we get the next slide up, for constraint progress measure 3.2, the percentage of campuses with a centrally, there we go, I've got it, thank you. With a centrally documented literacy plan, including parent outreach strategies to address the needs of students one or more grade levels behind in literacy, will increase 100 percentage points from 0% during 1920 to 100% during the 23-24 school year. So with this progress measure, we did not meet the target. We were set out for a goal of 66% this year. We were at 4%. We did have campuses that addressed literacy plans, but they did not contain parent outreach activities. So we have a plan in place for this to live in the academics department this year, and through the academics department leadership, forming these plans and implementing them as campuses roll out their school improvement plans as well. For constraint 4, the superintendent will not allow the district to operate without students receiving special education services, meeting individualized education program progress. For progress measure 4.1, the percentage of students with up-to-date IEP progress recorded every 6 weeks in the IEP system will increase from 0% during 1920 to 100% during 23-24. And when we looked at this progress measure and put it forth originally, we had the conversation around that 0% wasn't that students weren't making progress as denoted in their IEPs. We just weren't tracking it and recording it centrally on a consistent basis. So for this progress measure, we did not meet the target. When we look at this school year, 2021, 2022, each of those bars denoting 21-22 is each of the grade reporting cycles. So you can see over the course of the year, we improved with the percentage of students that had that progress documented, but we did end up shy overall at 47% for every 6 weeks. So we couldn't just count where we ended in the last 6 weeks. It had to be recorded every 6 weeks. So we ended the year at 47, which is up from 29% last year. But we are shy of our target of 66%. For progress measure 4.2, the percentage of audited IEPs showing standards-based goals shall increase from 0% during 1920 to 90% during the 23-24 school year. Again, this was a new process put in place. So when we look at in 2021, we were at 74% showing the standards-based goals from the audited IEPs. This year we increased to 79%, but that was 1 point shy of our target of 80% as we scale up again to that 100%. So we did not meet the target of 80% this year. As a note, you might notice in the report, we did audit fewer as a district, fewer IEPs this year for this, but the process was they would audit and then give the campus time to learn and grow and make changes, and then they would go back and audit again. So even though it looks like fewer, they actually had more touch points because they built that review process in for those campuses to ensure success. So our next steps for these two constraints, as I mentioned, providing leadership and guidance to the principals regarding the literacy plans and improving that communication around the literacy plans from the academics office. And for the two constraint 4 items, that routine progress monitoring to ensure that documentation is happening, and then continuing those routine audits to improve the quality of the IEPs.
And just before we actually get started, I wanted to make a few comments in reference to both constraints. Now, in reviewing both constraints and progress measures, specifically for constraint 3 related to notifying parents and guardians regarding how to help their children if they are more than a grade level behind in literacy, I am proud of the progress that we've made and of course exceeded here for this particular progress measure 3.1. Now, the growth that we have seen in this measure can be attested to more of a structural internal system that we put in place that ensures that the campus is following up with students and reaching out directly to families. Given the high student mobility rates and economically disadvantaged students that many of our families see themselves falling into, we realize the challenge that we have as a district in terms of maintaining up-to-date mailing addresses for all of our kiddos. Working with our campus leaders, who are the folks on the ground, will help us to provide more accurate, up-to-date insights. We see some areas of growth as it relates to constrained progress measure 3.2, the number of campuses with a centrally documented literacy plan. This is actually something that we did and were required to do in one of my previous states that I was in, and we incrementally got better over the course of time. The process was controlled again at the campus level, and what we found is that while there were very few campuses that centrally documented, very few of them had the documented parent outreach strategies. This year, the academics department will control this documentation process, which we believe will lead to being implemented in a more increased manner with the kind of fidelity that we want and expect. Now, in reference to constraint number 4, when we look at this particular constraint 4.1, we recognize that, of course, we didn't meet the target. However, we are encouraged by the improvement that we showed over the course of the separate grading cycles. In cycle 1, of course, only 48% of the students had centrally documented IEP progress recorded as compared to the 69% in cycle 6. As we continue to work to revamp our services for students with disabilities, ensuring this progress continues to be centrally documented is a key part of the work as we move forward. Now, for constrained progress measure 4.2, we came within a single point, of course, of meeting this target related to the percentage of IEPs showing standards-based goals. Our SPED department continues to work to implement systems to better improve our auditing processes, as well as conducting routine progress monitoring to identify growth of our students. Finally, for both progress measures 4.1 and 4.2, we believe that our reorganization that was recently done of our central office and special education department and staff and the respective realignment of their roles and responsibilities will continue to ensure that we have tighter schedules, monitoring, and the right personnel in place to support our campuses as we move forward. Madam President, I pass it back to you.
Thank you, Mr. House and Dr. Matney. Colleagues will do 2 rounds of 2 minutes. Trustee Dygard.
Thank you. So first I want to just comment for those who are new to this particular constraint. Constraint 3 is actually a communications constraint. It's not a literacy goal. It was chosen to drive better communication with families in a way that was collaborative about their student achievement. So the first question I have about this, it looked from some supporting documents that were shared with us that it was sent out in English and Spanish. So of this percentage that you have sent something to, how many of those families are documented based on the registration forms where the parents speak neither English nor Spanish? And you're not going to have an answer for me today, so I would like it in a referral. The point is, if we're not giving them the information in the language that they know, we haven't given them any information. So is there, is it going out in other languages, or is there some other way that you're communicating with the non-Spanish and non-English speaking families to make sure their children know that their children are behind in reading?
We'll get that insight and get it answered in the referral.
Okay. The next question that I have is about 3.2. So the literacy, so what I'm hearing is more schools had literacy plans that were centrally documented, but they just didn't include the parent notification part?
That's exactly correct.
Okay, so why?
Not sure about the why, but it's definitely something that we plan to wrap our arms around and tighten up this year. Yeah.
Okay. And then I noticed that on 4.2, fewer were audited this year. So is there, what is the statistic, or the
Fewer
reason for
fewer-
auditing fewer?
fewer IEP.
Correct.
So, Dr. Bird, would you like to share some insight here?
Yeah, so it was fewer folders last year. We have a plan in place this year to have more systematic review, and actually it's a goal in my division to increase that number. But part of the reason was that they did review them, and then they gave the campus time to did some education with the campus. They went back in, so they did more touch points with the campus, but that resulted in fewer folders overall. But
Okay.
this year we do have a plan to touch more folders throughout the
Okay.
district.
Did we review fewer this year than last year?
Fewer
That's
Yeah,
correct.
this year
Okay,
than the
okay, I
previous
did read it
year.
correctly. Okay, thank you.
Trustee Bluford-Daniels?
I'm not going to regurgitate that presentation that you gave us, thank you, but I would like some clarity, like on package page 3.1, the communication goal itself, as Trustee Dygard likes to educate us all in general, the centralized documented literacy plan, where it says package page 9. Are we on package page 9?
3.2, yeah.
Go back up one, sorry, constraint. Yeah, go back up
Yes,
one, I'm
sir.
sorry. Go back up one. Okay, go down, I'm sorry, go down. One more. Okay, my question is, the centrally documented literacy plan, what does that mean? Trustee Dygard, I thought she was going to educate us on it, but what does that mean? She likes to educate.
So that means in a place not living on somebody's spiral notebook on their desk. So we have a system called Plan for Learning where we keep, that's the system that holds our district improvement plan and our school improvement plans. And so centrally documenting is having it in that system so that it's of central focus. Those school improvement plans and the district improvement plans are what drive the steps throughout the year. And so the expectation is that the plan is housed there so that it's front and center on their minds to accomplish.
Okay, and the second part of that question, I wanted that said so that the general public could understand what that meant, and myself as well. Notifying parents what the process, what is that process like that you're notifying the parents. Parent portal, so I excuse my voice, I'm kind of hoarse, but they have a parent portal to review the children's information. But is there any manual way of notifying parents or grandparents in some cases that may not know that their child is failing? I saw that we almost at 100%. So my concern would be not only just for those various languages, because I have a large Haitian community and a large African community. So how are those individuals notified, those parents and grandparents?
So I think what I hear you getting at, Trustee Bluford Daniels, you use the word manually, is more not just the electronic means of getting things out, but also manually from the standpoint of mailers. Is that what I hear? And Dr. Byrd, if you'd like to share some insight in terms of what we're doing, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm going to defer to Dr. Manny because I wasn't here last year when I haven't been here long enough to do that process, but I think it goes with the report card, yeah?
No, it goes, so 2 years ago when we first started this, we mailed out papers, but we were getting about 30% return because of incorrect addresses. So we tried a different process this year, and we notified through the Power School system. And so linked was a notification letter, and then parents would get an email for that. We're talking again about how we can revise the process again for this year to make it even more inclusive. So definitely your feedback is key to me tonight, and having some kind of combination. Ultimately, it's about that relationship with the teacher and the families, and so there are certainly pockets where that communication happens and is transitioned. The issue here is centrally documented, so we want to make sure we have it documented that all that outreach went out.
And I think I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead.
I think you may remember me asking that question before, because I have a population of people, grandparents, great-grandparents that are raising their students that are not computer literate. And so I want to make sure that they're informed that their grandson or great-grandson or whomever is failing, and they're not be able to access it on the computer.
And what I was going to share is that is pretty much consistent with what all of our populations at different schools are different, and our administrators typically will know best what the best means of communicating with parents is, whether it is email, whether it is the mailer. So we definitely want to depend on the will of what our campuses think and know what's best in terms of communication with their communities around them.
So they'll have some financial support then to be able to mail that if necessary. In other words, I'm sorry, Madam President, but I wanted to just kind of follow up on that and ask if the campuses know that this campus primarily have a population of students that they're not going to have people that will be utilizing the computer technology, then can we send something manually and have it signed and returned for our records or the campus records? Thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go over. Not that much anyway.
Trustee Guidry.
Thank you, President Cruz. Superintendent House, so it appears, and I'm always confused about this, that we hit a goal, make 99%, and then our goal goes down to 95. Is there a reason why we just don't keep it at 100? You know, I always have that issue, that it seems like we're reaching down instead of up. Is there a reason for that?
Dr. Maddie?
Sure. So that target is 100% by 23-24. So what we do is we put that red line to scale up so that we don't expect that we're going to be at 100% year one, that it's scaling up to that 100%. So knowing that we were at 99 this year, could we then set it at 99 again? Yes, but as you heard me say, we're refining processes again. We're trying to improve practice again. I mean, I want that to be 100. You know, it was for a couple of cycles this year. But that is, if we went in and changed it every single time, it may not afford that. But my goal is that it's going to be 100 instead of 95 next year, and then again at 100 this past year. I mean, the final year.
Okay, mine too. So what's working here? Because we're meeting and exceeding our target here, but then when we get over to package page 11, we didn't meet our target at all. What's the disparage there?
Dr. Matt, you want to share kind of from a data standpoint with the disparity, and then Dr. Byrd, from a practice standpoint, what we're looking to focus on here?
Yeah, from the data, it's really about how we're collecting the centrally documented piece. And so as you see from the year prior, those processes weren't working. We refined, the data went up. So how we're collecting that has changed. And we see the results in that. Whereas on the literacy plans, we hadn't really made a lot of movement and change. This was hyper-focused, and that one went through some iterations, and so it's about timing and focus.
And then I would just add that this year, we're about to kick off a instructional framework committee focused on literacy. So we're going to have teachers, principals, instructional coaches involved in that process. So we have some central guidance, and then schools, of course, can tailor based after the central guidance. So it's a different process this year.
Okay, so then there's a new process.
Correct.
Pulling, okay. And then, real quick, on package page, I'm sorry, slide number 9, real quick. So we went from 70 to 69. Do we have data to tell us why we went down? It's not a big drop, but it is a drop. Do we have any data to suggest why it went down? And if so, what we can do to prevent it from going down even further?
Yes, so this is actually a goal in my department this year too, that it's 100%, that it will be 100% next year. And really, this is an interesting one. It's really about clicking a button in the system to finalize. And so just like teachers report card grades every marking period, it's a similar process for teachers who have caseloads of students that receive special education services. So we're going to progress monitor this a little bit better, and it should be 100%. There's no reason it really shouldn't
Okay, I'm
be.
going to hold you to that, Mr. Byrd.
You got it.
All right. Thank you so much.
September 1st, 2023.
Trustee Wade?
I want to go back to a couple of the questions about that constraint 3. And so when we talk about connecting with the families about the updates, can we do that also through the reminders through the website, or even at this, when people come to the desk to check in with their, if they're coming to visit campus, there may need to be an instrument that updates their information in some way. Besides, I know you submit a driver's license when you come to visit, but that could be old and they could have moved. So I'm just saying, is there some way we can work on getting up-to-date information across the board? Either through the district website or just a suggestion. Okay, and then my other one is, was there a reason or pushback from campuses or teachers or principals as to the centralized system recording? Was there any particular reason that they weren't wanting to input the data?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you. That's enough.
Trustee Hernandez?
Thank you. Do we know the 4 schools that did submit literacy plans with parent engagement and how they did?
I'm sure we can get those for you. I don't know that we know them off the top of our heads, but we'll put that in and get that insight to the board.
Okay, thank you. And then, as a previous administrator myself in HISD, I know a lot of times it seems like the district is asking for information and it's leading to nowhere. And I feel like this is what happened here, where information was asked from the campuses, but that information was not necessarily reviewed by anyone. And that's how we ended up with literacy plans centrally located, but without any parent engagement. So is there a plan for somebody to actually read the plans that are submitted to ensure that there is parent engagement, parent communication that is added?
That is definitely the idea. Dr. Byrd, if you'd like to expand. For Dr.
So
Manning.
we do have a department that oversees the DIPs and the SIPs, the District Improvement Plan and the School Improvement Plans, and that is the expectation moving forward, is that review happens. It also happens at the school office level, so the SSOs work with the principals on those plans and review, and so that's going to be part, we're adding some features in this year to help support those checks. And one of the items is making sure that literacy plan is included and includes parent outreach.
Thank you. The IEPs, I know the number of IEPs that were audited dropped significantly. Is that normal to happen from one year to the next?
The number of IEPs that were audited
Yes,
and
from one year to the next. There was about 600 audited one year and about 300 audited the next year. From 2020, it was 646. The next year, it was only 346.
okay. Dr. Byrd?
Yeah, I think that really has to do with like the process that, some process changes that happen, and then now there's been a reorganization in that department so it goes back up. And as I said, we are laying out a calendar, and so we get a broader cross-section of the city as well. So you'll see that number return to a higher number.
We'll also be shifting to a different platform from Easy IEP to.
So yes, we're looking at our platform that we use for IEPs, and so there may be some changes with that as well. So it's all around process improvement for special education. You might remember I talked about last month, I think, about reorganizing the central special education staff to deploy them more to schools so that they can support implementation of IEPs, but also writing IEPs. And then this audit process will be in every school office. There's personnel that will be able to do that on a more frequent basis. So I think the drop in numbers really had to do with some process changes that were happening through transition of administration and those, just types of process things that happened last year that we'll correct this year.
What's the name of the new system?
We don't have one yet. It'll go out for RFP.
What's the timeline for that?
The RFP is, I believe, opening in January.
Okay.
Is when we'll go for solicitation.
Okay, so it's going to be a while from now.
It would be, if we change it, it'll be the next school year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Trustee Baker?
Thank you, Madam President. Superintendent, on page 12 on your next steps, you say that you're going to provide leadership and guidance to principals regarding the literacy plans from the academic office. What does that look like compared to what you're doing now?
I think for us, it's an opportunity to just really lay out what the expectations are. Last year was really built on the shoulders of observing, figuring out what we're doing well, what we're not doing well. There were areas here we didn't do well. Dr. Byrd, if you'd like to share kind of some of the logistics around what it will look like in comparison to what we recognized this past year, I appreciate it.
Yeah, so that's also, as we go through building an instructional framework, we did that for math last year, we're doing that for reading this year, so there'll be more opportunities for stakeholder input from across the district, so it's not just, so academics will own that process, but we're gonna get input from teachers, principals, community. We'll have a much broader process to get input, and then, so then there'll be a central kind of, this is the foundation, and then schools, of course, can tweak that based upon the communities that they serve.
So when you mention input, are you getting input from a particular group of principals?
Yeah.
And when you say broad input, are you going to include more principals from all over the district?
Across the district, as well as teachers. We're about to start that process of soliciting. I'm going to meet with President Anderson very shortly to get some of her membership, and so we'll get those from across the city so that every area of the city is represented.
Yes, because I do know that principals have, in the past, from time to time I hear them say that, they're not called upon
Right.
to have their input, have their voices be heard. And so I think the broader the better. In like manner with your audits, when you say routine audits, what would that look like compared to what you're doing now?
The audit of the special education folder. So that is also, that's related to, now that we have reorganized the staff and have them deployed out, so like elementary school office 1, 2, and 3, they now have special education staff who used to be housed here at Hattie Mae White that are now deployed in the field. So we'll be able to much more regularly audit those folders and then take action, corrective action much more quickly than we have been in the past.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, I have some questions for round one. To follow up on Trustee Bluford Daniel's question on 3.1. So interestingly, when I read the report, I understood, because it says letter, so I understood it was like a physical letter, but what I'm hearing y'all say is that it's actually an email that parents get notified through HISD Connect. Am I understanding that correctly?
It's a couple of ways. So
Okay.
the first year, it was only hard copy letters that were mailed. So this year, it can go through the HISD Connect. Some principals chose to go ahead and print those out and hand them out as well.
okay.
So there was some variation at each campus on being responsive to that community, but it was through HISD Connect as well, kind of as a baseline overall. But there were some letters that got like hand delivered maybe at a parent night or.
Yes, and is there a mechanism in HISD Connect that if an email like bounces back, like say for this notification, I don't know, does that system exist?
I don't know, but we can find out. We can
Okay.
work with Scott to find out.
Because based on what the superintendent response in this is saying was returned, then the schools were asked to contact all the parents, hand deliver. So my question is, and if you can pull up the graph, Dr. Matney, of 3.1, if we're saying that we reached 100 or 99% of parents of that N number, is it the ones that we sent it to or the ones we know got it from the ones we sent it to?
Dr. Manning?
It's the ones we sent it to. So
Okay.
that's the very difficult part. Unless we send certified mail and get signatures back, it's in a face-to-face meeting, which not all parents can come to. It's very hard to track receipt of the information versus sending the information. So that is one piece.
Yeah, and I recognize the challenge and the difficulty. I mean, I know we have high mobility. I know when I was a teacher and it was like constantly you'd try every number and they were always disconnected. I mean, I get how difficult it is and do appreciate the intent behind this constraint and the efforts that are being made on campuses to notify parents. A couple of other questions I had. Oh, you guys know I love this question. Okay, so Renaissance data is what these notifications are based on, right? It's not on STAR. And what I've noticed over the last couple of years that we've been monitoring Renaissance data, and now we actually have quality STAR data, that students tend to perform much better on Renaissance than they do on STAR. And so when I was looking at this data for 3.1, my worry was, oh my gosh, are there kids whose parents were not notifying that actually probably are further behind? So if you could help me understand how, I don't know how Renaissance is scored, right? All I know is like the kids that are actually on grade level or not, but is it specific enough to catch the students that we would consider that need to be notified?
Dr. Bird?
So I think, like any, STAR is a snapshot of one day and time. So Renaissance equally is a snapshot. I think really the better predictor of this would really be to use multiple data points. The classroom teacher has lots of knowledge about what kids know and are able to do. I think that's really the most rich data point that we have. So I think I would just urge the same caution I always do about putting too much weight in one test, because it's just one day. It's one day. We don't know did the kid feel well that day? Did they perform their best? So I think over time, and that's why we're continuing to look at our our assessment program overall and really, look at what the best data points are to gather this information.
That's helpful, thank you. Okay, round two, trustee Dygard.
Thank you, and I was remiss at saying thank you for the new order of the report. I like that it starts with the assessment and the superintendent's response and then the data, so thank you. So superintendent's response to 3.2 didn't speak to anything at all about the communication with families in the literacy plans. And so excellent question, Trustee Guidry, that led to an excellent bunch of information from you, Dr. Matney, about this process of continuous improvement. Like even though we're at 99, actually this is 3.1, we're at 99, here's why we could waver a little bit until we have a much better system. So thank you for that. So on 3.2, thank you all for understanding, because am I correct in understanding, Amplify isn't a communication system, right? That's some other kind of system,
That's
right?
a curriculum, Amplify's curriculum product, high quality instructional materials for reading. That's being piloted this year on 6 campuses.
Okay, so but there's a plan for making sure that the literacy communication is in this for next year, right?
Yes.
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 Okay. And then that goes out every 12 weeks. So what does progress monitoring for the administration look like? Because we only monitor this one once a year. How are you all, Mr. Superintendent, monitoring throughout the year so we don't get to this point and not have met the target?
Dr. Burke?
Yeah, so again, I think that is now as we move to curriculum embedded assessments where teachers are getting more data that they can take action on in their classrooms, I think that's really the best place to catch this and let teachers do what they do best, which is to catch kids up and meet them where they are. And so I think, this year you're seeing it in math. You'll see a series of embedded assessments where teachers can respond to that. Amplify as a curriculum product that we're implementing in those 6 schools, that product has curriculum embedded assessments where teachers will get that data. So really, along the way, we're relying on teachers. They do things in elementary schools like running records. They do things like miscue analysis where they sit with a child and the child reads to them, and there's a process that they go through to understand where the child is in their reading ability. So it's really multiple data points, and then we look at test data and report card grades and those kinds of things.
But the progress measure is about having then parent notification in their literacy plan. So how does all of that ensure that this happens?
I'm sorry.
So 3.2, what's to ensure that the campus literacy plans include parent communication?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So then, then we have different strategies that we use and on the campus. So once, we're developing this task force, then we encourage literacy nights at schools, back to school kinds of things, parent conferences. There's lots of times where parents can get notified, and that's really best done at the school level because even if we have central kind of foundational plan, the community at Briar Meadow is going to have different needs maybe than Seguin. So every campus is going to put its own spin on what we're doing, and so the communication would happen through, the channels that the campuses use. But we have an expectation that they have those channels open and able to communicate with parents throughout the year. It's not just a one-time thing, I guess is what I'm ultimately saying.
Okay, I guess I misunderstood.
Yeah.
So the plan doesn't have to be done at the beginning of the year?
In this case, it won't be because we're just gathering the people to pull that together.
That's the part I was missing. Yeah. Okay. And then my last question is, how have these constraint progress measures, both 3 and 4, changed adult behavior in the district?
Dr. Burke?
I think that this is part of the larger strategic plan about, ensuring high-quality teaching and learning at every school. That's why we're going down the road of implementing high-quality instructional materials to make sure that students are getting grade-level material and that we're training teachers in a different way. So I think you'll begin to see the adult behavior changes as we train teachers differently and roll out consistent products across our schools.
Trustee Guidry?
Okay, I promise I have a very profound question. I just don't know if I'm there yet. So let me just play around with it a little bit. So help me understand, with respect to the next steps, have we established already the literacy plan, or are we just now getting to the point where we're trying to establish it?
Dr. Burke?
So there is a plan, HISD adopted several years ago, Literacy by 3, Literacy, and I can't remember what the high school, there is a literacy plan district-wide. What we're doing now is taking a look at that and making some modifications and getting input from teachers, because what you see in practice across the district is while there are plans, you see an uneven implementation of those plans. So that is something that I noticed when I came here, and so just like with math, we want to make sure that we have consistent implementation of things. So we need to revisit the plan. So there is a plan, but we're going to revisit it.
All right, so we have not started revisiting yet.
We're about to start.
We're about to start revisiting.
That's right.
Okay, and then, so how does Amplify play into that? Because Amplify is just 6 schools, and which are those 6 schools?
It's 3 elementaries, 3 middle schools, Codwell, Fleming, and Addix, DD Middle School, Codwell, Valley West, and there's another one you got.
All right,
me.
was that 5?
It was
Okay,
5,
okay,
but
I'll go
I got
with
5 out of 6.
I'll go with 5.
But so that is one. So that is a knowledge-based curriculum. So teachers are being trained in the science of teaching reading. There has been over time different philosophies of reading, but really there's one way to teach kids how to read. There's several components to reading instruction, and so I think we're looking at, as a district, everybody getting on the same page. Amplify is a product, but the instructional framework we create is going to be product agnostic. It doesn't, because it may not be Amplified. It's only in 6 schools. It may be something else. So, but what we are going to look at is like, what are those instructional strategies that are most high leverage to impact reading instruction? So, Amplify is just the vehicle that 6 schools are using. There's lots of other schools using lots of other methods, and we just want to say these are you need to have phonemic awareness. You need to have certain components to teach a child how to read. And then we want to say, what are the highest leverage instructional strategies we can use? That's what we're doing right now.
Okay, okay, so that all campuses, though, will have a level. They will know exactly what is expected from the administration as far as math, science, reading.
Yes.
All of those plans will be laid out across the district, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Hernandez.
Thank you. That just made me think of Trustee Guidry. The chart where we have the economically disadvantaged, the students. I'm like, oh, maybe that's a good idea for schools to do on a campus level instead of just having a district one. But that's not my question. My question is for Constraint Progress Measure 3.1. I see the number of students being tested in BOY, MOY, EOY. So let's take year 21-22. There's about 2,000 students less. Does that mean that 2,000 students made it out of this being 1 grade level behind?
Dr. Manning?
Not directly, because we're looking at different students. So if I was an 8th grader last year, I might be in that number of 128,000. But if I'm a freshman this year and I'm performing above and I don't need to be notified, then I'm not in the number for 21-22.
From BOY to EOY of 1 year.
Okay, so repeat, that means they're making it out? Yes, that means we had fewer that had to be notified because they were below. But remember, we also had some dips in participation in some of those BOY, MOY, and EOY.
Yeah, so I guess that's
Yeah.
what I'm asking. Is it the testing wasn't there? Are the numbers lower because the testing wasn't there? We're able to get on grade level.
Could be a combination of both.
Okay. How do we figure out which one is happening? Or which one is happening more? Or what the percentage is?
We can look at that.
Okay. And then my other question in regards to this is this data being cross-referenced with the 24 transformation schools and to see if this data aligns with the schools that are aligned to transformation schools.
To see if the existing non-transformational schools data is consistent
No,
with?
to see if it's the same schools are being identified. If the same trends, we see the most amount of students who are in behind grade level are in schools that are receiving more help because they are part of the transformation. Is that the right word? Transformation schools?
That's correct.
Yeah, is this data being cross-referenced so that make sure that
Got it.
the schools that need the most help are getting.
Yep. Dr.
The
Watts,
most
any insight here you want to share in terms of the data points for transformational schools that are being utilized?
So yes, we do have progress measures that we are looking at quarterly to make sure that the support is having an impact in the schools.
Yeah, is this data, right?
This specific data, percent of students behind in literacy, yes.
Okay, so most of these students that are in this 78,000 would be in schools that are transformation schools. That's what I'm saying. Are they being cross-referenced to make sure that there's not a school that's being left out or being forgotten?
These numbers represent all students, right? So it
correct.
would be inclusive of those students.
Thank you.
Trustee Blueford Daniels?
No, I bet.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, I had a follow-up question, but then Trustee Hernandez made me think of another question. So, I think your question still wasn't answered, Trustee Hernandez? No. So, let me see if I can phrase it in a way that, because I don't feel like, I mean, I want to know the answer too. So, if the subset of students at the transformation schools, are we progress monitoring those schools specifically for whose parents are being notified in terms of the students that are behind grade level?
Dr. Watts?
That's not been a specific progress measure that we've identified because we're really focused right now on academic impact, but it is something that we should consider.
Thank you. And of the schools, so I think this is 3.2. So the 4 schools that had a centrally documented literacy plan, did we look at the data for that school in terms of literacy scores? Like, was there an impact?
So we didn't directly, the 4 is 4%, and also what I want to clarify is, this is centrally documented literacy plan with parent outreach activities. So all those activities that Dr. Bird mentioned are happening across our district consistently. It may just not have been in the plan. So we've got to work to make sure that that all gets matched up. So it's not that we only have 4% of our campuses that have parent outreach activities for literacy, it's the centrally documented piece.
Yes, thank you. And yes, 4%, not 4 schools. In 4.1, if you can pull up the graph, please, yeah, the data. So, what made the difference? Like, we started out lower and then went higher. What changed over time? Because what I'm hearing is that there will be systems in place, kind of to revamp for next year, but what was the difference from each 6 weeks?
Dr. Burke?
I don't know that, I would like to think it's progress monitoring, but I can't tell you that for sure. That's what it was. It could have been. I do know that as things got put in place in the late winter or early winter to spring, that there was more attention on making sure that this was done. I think though that I can't say for sure that's what it was, but I will tell you for sure this year what it will be is that there'll be progress monitoring and there'll be reviews on a very regular basis to make sure that this is done. And my team is being evaluated on this actually measure, so it'll be done.
Okay. And, meeting the target, is one thing, but I guess what is the hope in meeting the target? What would be the outcome that you would expect?
Yeah, so, I mean, this is, to me, this is the same thing as a parent receiving a report card. Parents receive progress updates on students that are receiving special education services. This just provides more data to parents, but it also ensures that we're implementing the IEP with fidelity. So this will improve the quality of IEPs that are written, the implementation of them, and this ensures, you know, it's like a kind of a report card in some ways.
Thank you. And just kind of a technical question on 4.1, because I know teachers have to, I guess, is this, who's inputting this information? Is it teachers in the classroom, or is it the chair, the special ed chair? Like, who's?
It's a group effort in some ways. Teachers provide input because they're the ones that are interacting with the child every day, but the person ultimately responsible is whoever the case manager for that group of students is. That's the person that hits the button.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. All right, I don't see anyone else in the queue. Thank you. We'll now move to accept the presentation given to us. May I have a motion?
Second, Hernandez.
I have a motion by trustee Bluford Daniels and a second by trustee Hernandez. Please vote. Eight, 4, 0 against, 0 abstentions. We will now consider voting items held for discussion from the agenda review business agenda. Similar to the regular monthly board meeting, all action items for agenda review will begin on the consent agenda. If a trustee would like an item held from consent, note Sylvia Trend by 8 a.m. on the Monday prior to the voting meeting. No trustees requested to hold any of the voting items on the agenda review business agenda. However, I believe the administration has some information to provide us regarding item K1, approval of proposed revisions to board policy DEC local, compensation and benefits, leaves and absences, first reading. May I have a motion?
So moved, Hernandez.
Second, Wade.
Wait,
Did you need to make a motion? I don't know. To approve the.
okay. I'll entertain a motion to postpone. Somebody just make the motion to postpone.
Oh.
Do I have a second? I have a motion from trustee Bluford Daniels and a second from trustee Hernandez.
Madam President, are we postponing indefinitely, or are we postponing to a time certain? And if so, does the administration have a suggestion on that?
Jeremy, do you have a recommendation in terms of K1? This is the item that was withheld from the special meeting regarding the TASB item, which was a policy that revises our local policy to reflect updates to various policies. Recommendation, full month?
Yes, we expect to bring it, be able to bring it for a first reading at the October meeting.
Do we need to redo the motion? Okay.
For October.
Trustee Bluford Daniels.
Move to postpone until the October agenda review meeting,
Second, Hernandez.
2025.
I think you mean the October regular board meeting. The October regular board meeting, right?
Can I say 2025?
Okay, so we have a motion to postpone to the October regular board meeting with a second by, a motion by trustee Bluford Daniels and a second by trustee Hernandez. Please vote. Eight, 4, 0 against, 0 abstentions. We are now ready to approve the balance of the agenda review business agenda items by consensus. So trustees, I know I want to clarify because at the last meeting, there was a motion made for some of the items to be, maybe, Lisa, can you explain what the motion was? Sorry, I'm a little brain dead today.
It's my understanding that there shouldn't be any other policies to approve by consensus because everything else is being brought back at second reading on September 8th. So what you are discussing right now as part of the review of the business agenda for September 8th is all of those action items, including those policies that will be brought back on second reading. Board Services, did I get that correct from your notes, that there's nothing else, because we have delayed K1 DEC local, there's nothing else to be voted on tonight?
Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, wonderful. So our next order of business is to consider items to be presented at the regular board meeting of September 8th, 2022. As a reminder, everyone had an opportunity prior to this meeting to submit questions to the administration. The Q&A document was sent to all trustees via email, is in your SharePoint under September board meeting documents, and has been posted on the district's website. Please indicate any items you would like to pull for discussion this evening. So I'll go down from Trustee Hernandez,
I don't have any items, thank you.
Trustee Baker,
I don't have any items, thank you.
I don't have anything.
Trustee.
No items?
Wow, y'all, so proud of us. Trustee Gidry.
Now y'all making me feel bad. So I got a couple. F1. I3, K12, and K37.
Let me just repeat so I make sure. F1, I3, K12, K37.
Yes, ma'am.
Trustee Wade.
No, I don't have the need to pull, thank you.
Okay, F1. Dr. Allen, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No, I don't have any to pull.
Thank you.
You're making me feel bad. Okay, you know what? I'm going to withdraw mine and just submit questions. I was just like, yeah. I know. That's why I had to rethink it. I'll submit my questions in writing.
This wasn't about you, like, we all just did better work tonight, and it needs to be noted. Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm just going to submit. Yeah. I'm absolutely sure.
She's sure.
I'm sure.
All right. We are now ready to consider items discussed in executive session. Oh, wait. The board will now adjourn to closed session under Chapter 551 of Texas Government Code, Open Meetings Act, subsections 551.004.071.072, .073, .074, .076, .082, .0821, .083, .084, .089. Should board final action vote or decision on any matter considered in the closed session be required, such final action vote or decision shall be taken at the open meeting covered by this notice upon the reconvening of the or the subsequent public meeting of the board upon notice thereof. The board is adjourned to closed session at 6:07 PM. Okay, this meeting is now reconvened at 6:37 PM. Trustees, we actually had one item that we were posted for first reading today. It's K2. Ms. Trin, can you read what item K2 is, please? I can't get to it quickly enough. All right, let's see.
Yes. K2 is approval of proposed revisions to board policy EHAA local, basic instructional program required instruction, first reading.
Can you pull it up on the screen for us, if you don't mind?
Absolutely.
Do I have a motion, colleagues, for first reading?
So move, Baker.
Do I have a second?
Wade.
I have a motion by trustee Baker and a second by trustee Wade. Any discussion? If we want to wait for it to be pulled up, that's okay.
While it's being pulled up, I will just kind of give a synopsis here. This item was being withheld from the special meeting regarding TASB items. This item creates a new policy that aligns our local policy with provisions in HB 1525 regarding requirements for human sexual curriculum materials and Senate Bill 9 requirements for instruction on child abuse, family violence, dating violence, and sex trafficking, as well as a policy regarding the adoption of curriculum materials. Now, in response of board recommendations, we have added a provision that ensures that the School Health Advisory Council ensures that items on the compliance checklist required by statute are met.
Okay, so you can see the edits there. Any discussion? Trustee Hernandez.
Thank you. I just want to recommend again that the edits are in color for future reference. It's a lot easier to read in color, especially since this is all digital. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and I think Board Services is working on that, correct? Maybe, oh, you can't? Oh. Okay.
Just take your highlighter again.
Trustee Wade.
Yes, thank you. I would love it too, if we could, every trustee have the SHAC checklist, the compliance checklist. If we could all get it, that would be great. Thank you.
We can do that.
Okay, please vote. This is item K2.
And that's just putting it.
This is for first reading. All of them will be back. Yes, exactly. So all of them will come back next week for second reading. So we have 7 for, 0 against, 0 abstentions. La próxima reunión de la mesa directiva será el 8 de septiembre. Our next meeting is our regular monthly meeting on Thursday, September 8th, 2022. With no further business to discuss, the board is now adjourned at 6:40 p.m. on September 1st, 2022. Buenas noches.
As one of the top schools in the city, but also in the state as well.